Hello everybody. It's been a while, a good long while, since I did a good old-fashioned ranting slash moany type video on this channel, but I felt like I just had to add my 2 cents to this subject. I'm probably going to regret doing this video, but let's just get on with it. Now, I, like many other people across, well, the planet I assume, watch the TV series sci-fi drama show thing, Doctor Who. But unfortunately for me and lots of other people, over recent years my enjoyment of the show has slowly gone downhill. And at times I even wonder why I bother to watch the show anymore. Because everything I liked about the show is just being taken away piece by piece. And no, that's not a crab dance. Disclaimer on the top of this video. Just to make this very clear from the start, this video is not about the new series versus the classic era, or which characters or episodes are best or worst. No, this is about the issues I have with the show, which I've noticed over the last 4 or 5 years. Oh, and I can already hear the YouTube Doctor Who keyboard warriors already. You don't like Doctor Who anymore. You're just a hater and a troll. Die. That couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, I love this show more than you do because of what I'm about to complain about. You see, the beauty of what I do and other small-time internet losers do, I mean critics do, the beauty is that I don't have to kiss anyone's arse. So what you're about to hear is pure honesty from a miserable git complaining about a show that he's been a fan of for 18 years. So, I've compiled a list of things that either piss me off about the show over the last 4 or 5 years, or things that just need to go and be got rid of. Number 1. Retarded fans who weren't satisfied with Matt Smith's regeneration into Peter Capaldi, aka the regenerative sneeze. You know what? I'm glad they didn't drag it out and it just happened. Oh, but it wasn't a proper send-off for Matt Smith's Doctor. What, and blowing up an entire town wasn't enough for you? Or have you got short-term memory loss and you've already forgotten that he just went supernova about 2 minutes ago? His outro speech was great, I'm not denying that, yeah? But what I'm trying to say is, what more do you people want? He defeated the bad guys, blew up a town, and delivered his final speech. Just let the man die already. Actually, do you know what? The loss of handles was genuinely the saddest part of the Christmas special for me. Like in a Tom Hanks Castaway losing Wilson kind of way. The whole Christmas special was building up to this. You knew it was going to happen, and now you're just nitpicking. Blah, blah, blah. They should have done a face morph during the regeneration. No, they shouldn't. The production team don't have to do shit if they don't want to. They could have done the regeneration off screen. They don't have to do anything to please you. Number 2. The new series' whole need for just blowing everything up and slow motion. Rather than just explaining this point about every explosion, here's a 30-second musical montage.
Cool guys don't look at explosions. They blow things up and then walk away. Who's got time to watch an explosion? There's cool guy areas that they have to walk to. Keep walking, keep shining. Don't look back, keep on walking. Keep strutting, slow motion. The more you ignore it, the cooler you look.
Number 3 on the list is, do high falls kill this guy or not? Does anyone remember Legopolis? High fall equals dead and regeneration. Remember? I'll let number 10 off for bailing out of a shit because the end of time was his last story anyway, and he was going to die regardless of what happened. And because it was a bloody good story. But look at this! 11 putting on a spacesuit and just free-falling from low orbit.
Doctor, we've had a report of a radar contact.
On a re-entry curve from low orbit?
Yes.
Yes, Dr. 7, a re-entry curve from low orb. It must be the 11th Doctor free-falling. And is totally fine after the impact. Bollocks. No, I'm sorry, but this is utterly ridiculous, even for Doctor Who. So it was a Christmas special. That's no excuse. Set and establish some basic rules for the character, or even the Doctor Who universe itself. I know I'm wasting my breath here because there's always some magical bullshit solution that fixes everything. whether it's using the TARDIS, the Doctor magically fixing the problem himself, and our favourite get out of jail free card, the sonic screwdriver. Okay guys, the overuse of the sonic screwdriver has got to stop. It's getting ridiculous now. The damn thing does, well, just about anything except for wood for some reason. Why wood is exempt, I don't have a clue. As we know, the screwdriver made its first appearance in 1968, towards the end of the second Doctor's run, and it was just used more and more over the years as a magical plot continuation device, that by the time the fifth Doctor came to our screens in 1982, the producers had just had enough of the sonic, and they canned it.
Drop the sonic device.
Isn't my day, is it? I feel as though you've just killed an old friend.
Done. No more screwdriver for the rest of the classic series. Because they knew back then that using the screwdriver to fix whatever the problem was just really lazy writing. But the screwdriver came back with the show's revival, and it's now used more than ever. This is the 9th Doctor's screwdriver, by the way. Who the hell wants the 10th Doctor's screwdriver? Moving on. Number 5 on the list is Amy Pond. Oh, boo-hoo, Amy and Rory are gone. So what, they jumped off a building in The Angels Take Manhattan, and then people started uploading reactions to it on YouTube, crying hysterically and saying that they were never going to watch Doctor Who ever again. But then everything fixes itself as per usual. But Rory gets taken by a surviving angel, and then Amy does one of her only selfless acts in the show by sending herself back in time to be with Rory. And I was one of those people who stood up at the end of the episode, clapped and went, now that's a fucking episode. It's not great, but it's pretty good. Personally, I liked Rory more than I did Amy, because his character seriously got the shaft in this TV show. The Doctor swoops in and takes Amy away before their wedding, and the Doctor even mentions this in a later episode in a piece of dialogue where he says Rory wasn't there at first, then he was dead, then he didn't exist, then he was an Auton replica of himself. Oh, and did I mention that he waited a further 2,000 years for Amy? And we're just supposed to forget about all of that. And it's taken Amy all this time to finally know what she wants, after all they've done and all the bullshit that Rory's had to suffer through. No, I'm sorry, I cannot accept this. No rational human being would act like she does. Oh, and don't worry, because Clara isn't that much better either. Number 6 on the bullshit list is... how do you deal with a subject as complex and sensitive as having Adolf Hitler in an episode of Doctor Who? Just punch the guy in the face and put him in a cupboard. Simple. I mean, you know your episode sucks when a story from 50 years ago, with the main actor in 2 roles, I might add, playing the Doctor and the evil bad guy, handles the evil dictator subject better. And it's not even that good a story. Number 7. Dumbass dialogue which sounds really cool on first delivery, but when you sit back and think about it later, it's a load of rubbish. My favourite line of dialogue that you sit back and think, no, actually that's a load of bollocks, is this.
The man who abhors violence, never carrying a gun. But this is the truth, Doctor. You take ordinary people and you fashion them into weapons.
Actually, Dav, I think you'll find that the Doctor has become quite the master of carnage over 50 years, proving willing to use guns, weapons, skilled at hand-to-hand combat, and probably has the highest count for any individual who's blown up the most amount of stuff in the universe. Let's start with the guns, shall we? Sure, he doesn't own a gun himself, and most of the time our hero never follows through when he's holding a gun, but the intent is still there. Okay, that's the first Doctor with guns in the Old West, although they're probably just for show. Let's just have a look at the second Doctor holding a gun on guard just in case of Cybermen. Look at that! The third Doctor just blew away an Ogron for no reason. It didn't do anything to you. Yeah, looks rubbish, but that's still a gun. Yeah, that's definitely the fifth Doctor emptying an entire magazine into a Dalek mutant there. Yep, Doctor stabbing and shooting Cybermen. The seventh Doctor weakening Daleks so they can be blown up. Yeah, okay, he's pointing the gun at himself in the movie, but he does launch the Master across the room with a kick, and then makes him get pulled into a miniature black hole, so I'll let the 8th Doctor off for that. Gun. Oh, let's have a freeze frame on that. Yep, if I'm not mistaken, that's a lovely shot of a Mark III Lee Enfield rifle. And oh look, here he is again, this time pointing a gun at some guy's face. Look, do I even need to point out... Oh, screw it. Gun, gun, motherfucking gun. And as for the man who abhors violence, are you serious? After 50 years on TV, do I even have to mention the sheer amount of violence and blowing things up? Especially during the 7th Doctor's life, which arguably is the ultimate and the best of all. I'm not kidding when I say that everything, just everything blows up. And the programme was faithful right up until the end. It's kind of ironic in some way that the last story of the classic Doctor Who was called Survival, because as we know all too well, the show both unfortunately and ultimately didn't survive. Yeah, the number of people watching began to tumble in the last 4 or 5 years. The production budgets were significantly much lower than they had been in the past, and the head of the BBC at the time was on record saying he didn't like the show, and if it was up for cancellation and he had the chance to save it or not, he would most likely cancel the show. And a big long list of other factors, all combined, led ultimately to the show's demise after 26 years of being on the airwaves.
If we fight, we'll destroy this planet. We'll destroy ourselves. If we fight like animals, we'll die like animals.
Number 8 on the list is mid-season breaks. It's okay for a show to have a break for 2 or maybe even 3 weeks if something important is on, like a major sporting event or tournament. Or if it's summer or the Christmas holidays, a TV show can get away with a break for 2, 3 months tops. But putting a mid-season break in the middle of a show like Doctor Who is just fucking unacceptable, especially when there's only 13 episodes a year. Hell, check out this example here. Now, one of the TV shows I'm into at the moment is Grimm. Yeah, don't judge me. Each season is 22 episodes long, and their longest mid-season break to date was just over 3.5 months. That's cool, that's fine, because it was over the Christmas period. Doctor Who, as I mentioned, has 13 episodes a year. And let's look at the latest season of the show, and now look at how long the break took. What the fuck? It just makes people less likely to tune back in. What this says to people is, hey, we're too lazy to meet our deadlines and haven't finished production, or even wrote the scripts yet. But to be honest, if an episode isn't good, which is, what, 60 to 70% of the time these days, it just feels like a mashup of random shit the writer just threw together like one of Godfrey Ho's ninja films.
Supreme Ninja.
And don't give me any of this crap about not having enough money, time or manpower. That's bollocks. These guys have a multi-million-pound budget and have a whole year to make 13 episodes. That's all we need you to do. Fuck, I mean, back in the day when the show started, each story was split into 4 30-minute episodes. You know how long it took to film each 30-minute episode? An hour and a half. Yeah, it was never perfect back in those days, but they still got the job done. Those production crew guys back in the day could crank out a dozen episodes in 2 or 3 weeks. How the hell do you guys need a year? And don't say you haven't got the staff either, when there are legions of Doctor Who fans out there, old and new, who will do that shit for free. And don't worry about episode or information leaks, just make them sign something. Although, I suspect this is more Moffat's doing, going back and forth between Doctor Who and Sherlock. Pick one, Stephen. The hardcore Whovian fanbase is not a group of people that you can get away with pissing off so easily. We will drive you mad until the day you die, or when you stop writing for Doctor Who. Which one's it gonna be, Stephen? Which brings me to sunny point number 9 on the list. Stephen Moffat, and the boring and awful writing for the show. Remember when Moffat wrote a few good episodes as a guest writer back in the day? And remember when we heard that he was going to take over as head writer, and we all rejoiced because the episodes and the writing was going to get better? Yeah, me too, but it never happened. Since he's been in charge, and this is just my personal opinion, you don't have to take any notice of it, the majority say 75% of the writing has been absolutely piss poor. What I don't understand is why, oh why, does everything have to be wrapped up so quickly at the end of every episode? Nothing ever seems open-ended anymore. Each season since 2010 has had one overarching plot or one mystery to be solved for the season. That's it. Nothing ever seems to just interweave, and they're all just standalone stories. No connections, no references to past episodes or adventures. Not that I noticed. I mean, unless there was the occasional sporadic reference written deliberately into the dialogue. Maybe I'm just thick. And the episodes themselves, oh my god! Examples of some of the latest abysmal writing at its worst are Dinosaurs on a Spaceship and The Power of Three. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship is one I assume they came up with the name for it first and then wrote the story after. There's so many unnecessary and useless characters and so many pointless random moments in the episode that it's... I don't know who coined this phrase, but the episode is a pastiche of bullshit. And then there's The Power of Three. Oh my god, I have never seen an episode of any TV show ever that reveals the bad guy, defeats him, and wraps up the episode in 5 minutes or less. It's such a rushed, lame ending, it's chronic. How is this episode sitting on IMDb rated at 7.7 stars after it's been rated by nearly 1,500 people? Who are these people? Are they brain dead? Number 10. The constant fucking backpedaling. There was a time when a TV show could set some rules or laws about certain characters or a certain fictional universe, and it would just be taken as read and you'd never question it because they'd always stick to the rules. But with Doctor Who, I don't know why we bother getting pissed off about rule changes or rule breaking anymore. We all know that if the show becomes a big enough cash cow for the BBC, the Doctor is blatantly going to live on past his 13th life. I've already mentioned the falling from a great height rule earlier, but there are many more. There's that classic Davros line about the Doctor never carrying a gun and how he abhors violence, which is rubbish, as I explained earlier. The guy absolutely revels in violence. And yeah, he never carries a gun, but he can't help himself picking up one whenever the hell he gets the chance, can he? Oh yeah, and then there's that other rule where somebody says the Doctor never asked to be thanked. Bullshit!
Isn't anyone going to thank me?
They change shit all the goddamn time. So now whenever the Doctor says, this will happen, or this is a fact, I just don't take any notice anymore, because later down the line, the writers are just going to continually break those rules or find a way around them. Oh, another personal favourite of mine is the Time War, and the fact that it's time-locked in some way, like in its own little bubble or something, and nobody can get in or out. Oh, no, look, they found a way into the Time War in the 50th anniversary episode. I know they were led through, but that's not the point. And this dialogue here just says everything about the disregard for rules and laws in the show.
You're not actually suggesting that we change our own personal history. We change history all the time.
Well then, surely the logical decision is to go back in time and stop the Time War from ever happening, you morons. Oh, and I mentioned the 13 lives rule, and some hardcore fans got up in arms about this, saying that the Doctor really should die after life number 13. And I mean the really hardcore fans, the ones that watch Doctor Who 20 times a day and have Tom Baker's face stenciled onto their toilet seat lid. And so Stephen Moffat's smug reply to these fans through the show's dialogue was this.
What did you say? Did you mention the rules? Now, listen, bit of advice. Tell me the truth if you think you know it. Lay down the law if you're feeling brave. But, darlings, never, ever tell me the rules!
That's the writer's equivalent of a bitch slap and saying, yeah, whatever, take my shitty writing and episodes like a man. Oh, and before I move on, I noticed this line in the episode the other week.
This is the end for you. The final end.
Yeah, reminds me of a similar line said almost 50 years ago.
The final end.
And secondly, how many times has it been the final end for the Daleks? And thirdly, the title of this episode isn't really that true, is it? It wasn't a victory. They only managed to escape because they had a backup plan. These days I find myself rooting for the Daleks and other bad guys in the show because when you actually think about it, the Doctor is just, well, he's a dick. Number 11. I'm going to cop a lot of flack for this one. The 11th Doctor. I've partially waited until now to make this kind of video because personally, in my opinion, I don't think it's fair to judge an actor as the Doctor until they leave the show. That way, you can judge their portrayal as the character as a whole and not just base it off 2 seasons and go, oh yeah, I've concluded from watching this one season that this guy is bollocks forevermore. Flying around, clinging to the TARDIS, yeah, okay, most Doctors have their bout of craziness after they first regenerate, so the subtlety of the show's been cut down a notch. I thought, I can still dig it. But what made me detest Matt Smith's Doctor almost immediately with a passion is the 11th hour's food scene. It made me want him to die and regenerate again, immediately. This scene should not be funny to anyone over the age of 12. Matt Smith is a fantastic actor. I've seen him in many other things. But there are times in this show where I'm watching him and I think, what the fuck are you doing? I know it's meant to be a show for the whole family, but realistically speaking, the average age of a Doctor Who viewer by this point is beyond old enough to know better. And the stupid humour and physical comedy sometimes comes across as insulting. It almost feels like I'm watching an early vaudeville act or something. And I've even had people tell me, look, James, you don't get it. He's a very old man in the body of a very young man. And for all his crotchetiness and moodiness, all he really wants is for everything, including himself, to have its fairy tale ending. Which kind of makes sense, I guess, since the makers of the show said that fairy tale-ness is a theme of the 11th Doctor's incarnation. Yes, but I would add, I don't care. And I've not even mentioned my whole issue with the makers of this show the last 2 or 3 years going every time, oh, this season is going to be like, or the enemies this season are going to feel like the classic or the retro Doctor Who. No, they aren't. They never are. And now I've heard someone say it about the next season coming up with Peter Capaldi. Don't you dare insult my intelligence. The show will never go back to the way it used to be. I know that. I've accepted that many years ago. And wrapping this video up and looking to the future, I want the show to get better. I really do. Please, please don't make it worse. I want Capaldi's Doctor to be good and a bit more serious like the 9th Doctor and less titting about. But I know my opinion holds all the significance of spitting into a very large river. It's not going to make a lick of difference. At this point, asking Moffat to make Peter Capaldi's Doctor not a complete retard is a bit like asking YouTube to get rid of Google+. It's King Canute against the tide. It's not going to happen. Anyway, I hope this video isn't as shit as I think it's going to be. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now, so And see you next time. Hopefully it'll be another review.